daddy on my inner lip from my ex-boyfriend's album promo for a TikTok.
You were a good girlfriend.
Yeah, I hate him now.
Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to read an article which is titled, Why Some Women Cheat Not to Leave, But to Stay. And a shout out to Lee for sending in this article. And guys, this whole article is one of the most ridiculous things I've read in a long time. This article, I can't remember the exact name of the blog. I forgot to write it down. Psychology something. But this is written by a woman who has, obviously certain degrees and letters behind her name. And this whole thing is pretty much to justify cheating. It's ridiculous. That pretty much because men are just bad husbands and can't read minds and can't keep her fulfilled, therefore these wives are justified in having lovers. And sometimes not just one lover, multiple lovers, because no one man can fulfill everything. And it's ridiculous. But this goes to show you the mindset that is out there and trying to sell this crap to the public. And it's also what I think is pretty funny here in this particular article, as you'll see, if a guy wrote this instructing guys basically that this mindset that it's okay for a guy to cheat on his wife and kids and family if he's not being fulfilled in the bedroom, instead of just ending the marriage and parting ways. If it was giving guys permission to do that, people would be up in arms, losing their shit over the whole thing. But it's perfectly okay in this scenario here if it's a gal. It's nonsense. But I do things like this on occasion just to show you guys the mindset that's out there. And of course, this backs up why an open phone policy is not such a bad idea. Or coming home early from a work or a work trip, I'll bring that up later on again to really hit home about that and how these gals can be masters at covering their tracks. So sadly, as much as you may think your marriage is good, you gotta pay attention, guys, because you just never know. Now, before I get to the article in the Idiot of the Day feature here, we have a gal who is quite the entrepreneur. You see, she has found a way to make money by selling lollipops online that she has, how can I say this without getting censored, inserted into certain locations on her person. And well, it's caused her a bit of a problem. And of course, she's going on to TikTok to share this whole thing with the world. Check this out.
I used to sell these lollipops, and what I would do is you take a lollipop and you insert. And I would sell those for a lot of money on the internet to men.
Name is Sugar Lips.
And eventually, I started having this problem. It was itchy, and I was like, what is happening? And I went to the gynecologist, and they're like, you can't put sugar in it. Yeah, so then I had to switch to sugar-free lollipops.
Lady, you're an idiot. What do you think's going to happen if you shove food or candy items down there? I mean, really, that surprised? And also, you're an idiot because you're putting the stuff on TikTok to show to the world. Obviously, someone you know is going to see this, and what you want your dad, your mom to see this? I mean, really? But you know who's the biggest idiot in the whole thing? Not necessarily her, the guys that buy that. And I'm going to leave it at that. Now on to the article. It says here, infidelity is almost always framed as a betrayal, a dagger to the heart of marriage. But what if, for some women, cheating is actually the thing keeping their marriage together? Right there in the first paragraph, you can see the mindset here, the way to make excuses to justify the cheating. It's ridiculous. My research on women who cheat flips the script on everything we assume about affairs. But let's be clear here. This is not an endorsement of infidelity. You could have fooled me, honey. Cheating is a messy, imperfect solution, a desperate workaround. These women aren't celebrating their affairs, they're making the best of a bad situation, often landing in sexless marriages where conversations about their needs head nowhere and have gone nowhere. Come on. Generally, if there's a SCX-less marriage, it's because the woman doesn't want to have it, not because of the guy. Or he doesn't want to have it because she's put on 150 pounds or something like that. The women I interviewed weren't looking for a way out. They loved their spouses, valued their families, and had no interest in blowing up their lives. But they were trapped, feeling frustrated, unfulfilled, and out of options. Oh, okay, so then go cheat. Or cheat with multiple guys. This is a load of crap. But then again, look who's writing this. Rather than torching their marriages, they found a workaround. They avoid a messy, heartbreaking divorce by engaging in a carefully managed, highly strategic affair to meet their needs without losing what they valued most. I call it the infidelity workaround because for them, that's exactly what it was, a way to stay. which shows how selfish they are. Talk about heartbreaking divorce. How about the heartbreak of the husband that she's cheating on? Look at the justification here. This is ridiculous. Why monogamy feels impossible for some women. We like to think of monogamy as the gold standard, the default setting for fulfilling relationships. But for many women, it slowly suffocates their S-word desire, or leaves them in marriages where the SEX disappears altogether, whether they want to or not. Monogamy doesn't work well for some women, then why are they married? There's a question there. Why'd they get married? Can you imagine an article like this about guys feeling unfulfilled, then basically go out and cheat, and just that way they don't have to break up the marriage? People will be all up in arms all over them about this. But if it's a gal in the modern age, well, that's okay. The assumption has always been that men have a higher SEX drive, but research tells a different story. Studies show that in long-term relationships, it is the woman's desire that tanks the hardest, but not because their libidos are naturally lower. Familiarity, routine, the mental load of managing a household, and shifting dynamics all squeeze the air out of their S-word desire. Well, I'm not surprised about this because women get bored very easily. If you guys have lived long enough, you understand this. When I was a personal trainer, I had to constantly, with my female clients, mix things up all the time because just you do things twice, they get so freaking bored. You don't think familiarity and other things get boring to a guy, or they're not stressed out? That doesn't give the guy the right to have an affair. Sometimes women end up in an SCX-less marriage that they never signed up for. They want change, but despite their efforts, nothing shifts. So after years of rejection of unmet needs, they start looking for alternatives. So gee, who's rejecting them? Who's not meeting their needs? The evil, despicable husband who doesn't listen, even though she says 16,000 words a day and he can only remember 5,000 words, because that's just how we're wired. Come on here. At the same time, research shows that while their desire for a long-term partner dwindles, women often experience a surge in S-word interest when something new enters the picture. So it's not that they lose interest in the SEX, it's their current situation isn't lighting their fire. Look, you get a couple that have been together for a long time, of course, things get routine and it's not like the honeymoon phase anymore, but you enjoy the other good things in the relationship, if there's a good relationship. Don't get me wrong, the bedroom action is a lot of fun, but after a while, it can get old, with the same person. But that doesn't mean you cheat on them or leave them. You do things you can to spice things up, that's fine, but come on here. And sometimes resentment and the sheer exhaustion of carrying the mental and emotional load of a household smothers that flame entirely. Oh, like husbands aren't carrying a load of what they have to deal with in the household and her? And so they start looking for alternatives. But let's be clear, this wasn't about romance. They weren't daydreaming about falling in love with some starry-eyed Romeo. No one was writing love letters or whispering sweet nothings. They weren't looking for connection, they were looking for climaxes. Well, they were also looking for attention and validation, let's be honest here. By the way, guys, you probably hear a lot of cars rumbling by and everything. My usual spots all had something going on today, so I had no choice but to come over here, which is noisy as well, so just bear with me with the noise. Not validation, not butterflies, not someone to gaze into their eyes and tell them they're beautiful, just orgasms, full stop. That's a load of crap. It's always about the attention and validation. It's always about the excitement of the chase and their butterflies. Come on here. They weren't searching for Prince Charming, they already had one at home. What they needed was someone to meet a specific unmet need, nothing more, nothing less. Someone probably more like someone's. And they weren't naive either. As one woman put it, look, this guy gives me orgasms, but he's not even in the same league as my husband. If my husband didn't have ED, these guys wouldn't stand a chance. Listen to the justification there. Cheating to stay in the marriage. For these women, an affair wasn't about replacing their spouse, it was about filling a gap. Yeah, they don't want to replace the spouse because they want a big, public, embarrassing divorce. They don't want to lose that income source. They don't want to, have to do so much more if the house split up and they had to take care of the kids. No, but they have no problem cheating on the guy. They had tried to communicate their needs, but nothing changed. Rather than stewing in frustration or resentment, they found that an affair allowed them to meet their needs elsewhere, easing tension at home and helping them stay in their marriages. Instead of growing distant or bitter, they felt more patient, engaged, even affectionate in their day-to-day lives. Oh, well, that justifies everything. Well, here's a question I got to ask, and some of you guys are probably thinking this too. Okay, if these wives find such justification in the cheating and the affairs because their evil, wicked husbands just don't meet their needs and listen to them, does that mean the husband can go out and hook up too? Is that allowed in this equation? Probably not. If they're not happy, end it. End the story. And end the freaking story. But they're not going to do that. They want both. They weren't looking for the one. They were looking for Mr. Now and Then. Love, question mark, feelings, question mark, emotional intelligence, absolutely not. The pragmatism of women's infidelity. I can't believe this woman here wrote this with a straight face. I found that these women designed their affairs with military precision, strict rules, clear boundaries, and zero risk of anybody catching feelings. You know how many times I've covered stories, particularly on my other channel, They Did What, about these wives or girlfriends that propose an open relationship, open marriage, and they all say the same things. Strict rules, you're not allowed to catch feelings, all literally military precision. It's amazing. They all comes from the same fucking book they read. But let's talk about another practical move these women made, not putting all their eggs in one basket. Many women maintain multiple affair partners at once. Not because they were greedy, but because they already learned from marriage that relying on just one man for everything was a risky bet. So they kept a roster or a herd of partners to ensure they always had options. You want to talk about making it worse. It's bad enough cheating on a husband with one guy, but multiple dudes, which typically happens in a lot of the stories I've covered. These poor guys. One woman put it best. Why would I expect one affair partner to meet all my needs when my husband couldn't? Darn it, yeah. It was a backup system, not a romance. They weren't juggling relationships, they were managing logistics. Are we setting ourselves up for failure? Yes. This research forces us to ask some uncomfortable questions about how we approach relationships starting before we even say I do. Such as, why aren't we talking about the S-word expectations before marriage? We spend months planning a wedding, but often skip the part where we discuss what we need in the bedroom to stay happy in the long run. Why do we assume desire stays the same over time? We expect everything else in the marriage to evolve. Why not our S-word needs and expectations? Anybody getting into a marriage, I know darn well over time, you're with somebody so long, you're going to get to know everything about them, experience so many things, even bedroom action, that eventually it can get boring and routine. So, that's a part of the thing. It doesn't mean you don't communicate both ways, the way people can understand. So many women expect their guy to be a mind reader. That's not how we're wired. Or dropping hints. Women, you got to be direct to us. Explain what you want, what's on your mind, Hints and hoping us to be a bunch of Professor Xaviers that can read your fucking minds doesn't work. But still, you're not going to get anywhere unless you properly communicate. Why is it just talk to your partner, treat it as fix all? Many of these women did communicate their needs. The problem wasn't silence, it was being unheard. Okay, then end the marriage. If women are that unhappy and they're not their needs being met and all that, then end the marriage. No, they don't want to do that because they're selfish. They want to still have what the husband can provide. And I might add, guess what? Newsflash, I've lived long enough to know, I'm 2 years from 50, I've done enough, thousands and thousands of stories like this. There's never making them happy, no matter what. Because they could leave the husband for the chatter Tyrone that could really make them just get a big O every time they see the guy. But then they'll be unhappy about other shit. There's no making them happy. What happens when one partner wants SCX and the other does not? We rarely ask what realistic options exist when sexual needs go unmet in long-term relationships. Maybe women's sexuality is a whole lot more complex and pragmatic than we've ever been led to believe. These women weren't looking to betray their husbands, they were looking to find a way to stay. That is 1,000% betraying their husbands. But you all know how, especially you guys that have been in enough relationships, the talk around and the mind effing guys to justify stuff, this is it. But when years of unmet needs and unheard conversations pile up, they ask themselves, what realistic choices are left? And they found no real answers. No, there's always answers. It's just not an answer that they like. They want to keep the picture-perfect life with a nice income and looking good for the Joneses and family. But they don't want to lose that. Losing that's an answer they don't like. So they want to just have affairs. Instead of treating every episode of infidelity as a scandal or moral failing, maybe we should be asking a different question. How can marriages evolve to actually meet both partners' needs before one and the other partner starts looking outside if to meet their needs? Well, that is a good question. You want to look and figure out what will avoid that big mess. But if either party, wife or husband, or boyfriend or girlfriend, it gets to the point they need to go out and cheat and they're trying to justify it, and really someone like this is trying to justify it, this is something is seriously wrong. But anyhow, there you go, guys. I forget the exact name of this, where this came from. I'll be posting a link to it, Psychology something. But this woman writing this, she has certain accreditation about her background and all that, but this is nonsense. It's a bunch of crap just to justify bad behavior. And as I said before, if a guy did this, there's an article about men justifying their cheating because of these things, people would be losing their minds. But because of the time we're in, it's considered empowerment. If, to do that, if your needs are being met, well, there you go. It's ridiculous. So guys, there you go. Now there's also more of a point why an open phone policy is important, and a guy has every right to go through her phone, and you have to sometimes come home from work early just to see what she's really doing, all these other things, right here. I hope this does not happen to any of you guys, but this is the mindset. And there's going to be some woman out there that's going to read this and say, you know what? I'm unhappy. He's not reading my mind, so I'm going to go cheat because I don't want to certainly, leave the life that I have right now that's very comfortable. No joke. It's going to happen. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this crap. And be sure to like the video, share it to friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.